Leave the saving the world to the men? I don't think so.
Kicking your ass.
Gather round, one and all, as we celebrate the magic of women in cinema at our Film Coven. Today, we have our second women's panel of the year. We're so excited. I'm your host, Kelli Mehan. We're joined by Jeannine, Nicki, Abby, Marisol, and my co-host, Melissa. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. We just can't wait to get started. So what we're doing today is we're going to be celebrating. We put to our panel kick-ass women. However you want to phrase that, any actresses, any directors, any person who worked in film, or if there's characters you love, we sort of gave everyone a bit of free range to be inspired by whatever kick-ass women they've seen on screen. And the first one that came to my mind instantly is growing up in the 90s and just when Mulan came out. Mulan, I'm talking 1998, the Disney version, because growing up with the Disney Renaissance, we had a lot of princesses, and I love my princesses, I love my girls, but it was just awesome to see this woman take control of her destiny and do combat, to fight for her country, to fight for her family. The relationship she has with her dad, it just has always touched my heart. The flower that blooms in adversity blooms greatest. Like, I just think about that line so very much. And she still had this grace about her, but she wasn't perfect because you had those scenes at the beginning with the matchmaking. You know, she didn't bring honor to her family at the start, but then when the ending scene and the emperor's like, now all of China like bows to you, it's just gorgeous. And then she's still worried about like going home and seeing her father. And I think it's just a great representation of the way women can be multifaceted. We didn't just have to be rescued, so we can go out and have that destiny and fight. And especially in that ending scene with Shan Yu, there's that scene where the men are all in drag and it's like Be a Man starts playing. It's like, yes, because this is where we get one of the best all-time Disney songs, I'll Make a Man Out of You. If you do not have that on your workout playlist, highly recommend. Like, that gets you going. But they all take off their sashes, and even Li Shang's there, and it's like mixing the femininity with the masculinity. And I think Disney just absolutely nailed it with this one.
Well, I think that's why the live action version disappointed me so much, because she didn't really have to work for it. They gave her this like already magical power so she could do everything already. So what I loved about the animated version was that she had to work for it, and she was doing it for such a noble reason. And the fact that she was able to kind of lead the men in the end and all of the feminine qualities is what ended up saving the day. Like, it's what her fan is what kind of saved everything. So I love that she used this kind of symbol of beauty and femininity to ultimately save the day. So absolutely love Mulan. Great choice.
It's so funny because this actually reminds me when I was a junior in high school, we could pick any topic we wanted to cover in American culture or history. And I had a classmate who did the evolution of Disney princesses and how kind of around the Renaissance period, and especially with Mulan, as they became increasingly independent and taking more charge within their stories. And she really is kind of the first one who, there's a lot of action in a lot of previous movies, but really the princess, the female protagonist, she's really kind of the one that really kickstarts taking that more actionized role. And what's so great about it is she's surrounded by a lot of great, very fun characters. Mushu is there supposed to be her mentor, but at no point do any of them ever overtake her. They guide her, but she is still the star of the show. She's the one that's still driving all of the action. It is during that wonderful song that you have mentioned that she is struggling at first, but she's the one that pushes herself. She's not having anyone kind of leading her or like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs or anything. She's the one that takes charge and really is the molder of her destiny. And like you said, it's all for these very noble, endearing causes, which is why she's easily one of the best Disney princesses of all time.
She really is. And not that any of the other Disney princesses from before her aren't great characters, but she really is one of the first really great role models, I think, for all women, all girls, young girls. Just even to see her go from like the awkward, like with the whole matchmaking, like you brought up, it's like, oh, she's really relatable. Like we've all been super awkward and during, you know, that type of thing. But then even just seeing like the selflessness, I mean, you all mentioned the relationship with her father and just her goal and the driving point for her to do all of this is really special. And I really particularly love that about her. And again, I mean, just seeing her, like the montage, her training and working for this, like all of it is just really great. And that's why she is a lot of people's favorite Disney princess. Like she really is great.
Yeah, she is, you know, she's a different breed, and we love all of the Disney princesses and the Disney heroines, I should say, that came before. But I think Mulan is particularly special for all the reasons that you all said, and the reason that her goals and her missions are uniquely her own. They're not kind of a byproduct of the actions of the men around her, or, you know, usually them being I don't know how I'm trying to say this. I guess, especially particularly in the Disney Renaissance era, with Jasmine or Belle, like men, the goal is them pushing against men, just trying to possess them. You know, that's kind of their arc and their journey, and how they're kind of finding their empowerment within those relative confines in those films. And Mulan is all of her goals and her vulnerabilities, all of that are so driven from within, something she cares about, her family. It's her, she's so proactive. Her journey, her arc is so proactive and not reactive to the men around her. And that, like you all have said so well, that really takes her to the next level and makes us really feel seen as, like, she steps up as a role model for that level of agency that is just clicking in at a different wavelength than we've seen before. She's remarkable. Plus, I just love, I was a little tomboy growing up. So I felt that one so much more. I was never a little glamorous girl or anything like that. So just Mulan's scrappiness and her boyishness always just vibed with me so much, and love seeing that side too.
I love that her I Want song, I Will, is reflection. And I think that's one that we can all really listen to and take a lot inside. Like, who do I see in the mirror? Why is it not who I am? And presenting and just finding your place in the world. I think that's another part that really relates to Mulan.
This is a movie that I very much remember when it came out, because it came out the year that my brother was born in 1998. So I was 7 years old, and this was definitely like a childhood classic for me, often, rewatching. And yeah, I also was a tomboy growing up, and this was probably one of the first movies that I saw that, like, on film. Definitely something I connected with, and I've kind of more connected with the masculine side of myself for the majority of my life, and it hasn't been until like the last few years, and especially doing this project, really embracing like the feminine side of it all. So yeah, Mulan's just awesome, groundbreaking with breaking those gender roles and stereotypes in a Disney movie too, so it's awesome.
Yes, so absolutely love this character. Black Panther was a huge cultural moment for me. My family, who like never goes to the movies, we all went to the theater. I actually had designed a bunch of Black Panther shirts. And so my family bought the shirts. We were all wearing my Black Panther designs, went to the theater together as a family and watched this movie. I came out in tears. So just seeing this beautiful, strong character, so loyal, so tough. I love the scene when, she has to wear this wig and she absolutely hates it because it's just not her. So I love that she's so authentic to herself. The fact that she went against her own man, to, stay on the right side of things. And then even in the second film, when she has this huge failure and she kind of gets, yelled at by the queen, and she owns that failure. Doesn't shy away from it. She doesn't make excuses. She just owns up to that. And then just all of the amazing scenes of her kicking ass. And I mean, Denai Guerrera, we were introduced to her as this amazing character, Michonne. So to see her go on to be this character and working with the spear and doing these incredible fight scenes, love this character, love her loyalty, love her friendship with T'Challa. You know, her kind of razzing him and messing with him is always really fun to watch. And her love for him, her love for her country, everything. So just love that character.
Okoye gives me the chills when she's on screen. Jeannine Guerrera has such presence. And what's so great is it's this lead character, this female in this powerful military-esque role, but she's warm. You get the warmth from her, and that's what you're saying. She has that familiarity with T'Challa. And my favorite scene, and it's about Ruthie Carter's costume design as well. We talked about it in our Hall of Fame, when she's in this red dress, and they had to get like proper fabric so she could do these amazing fight choreo on this car, and this red fabric's just whipping around.
And she jumps from the balcony. Oh my gosh. And the dress just flows behind her.
And the fact that I love that you bring in the other movies as well, because we find out like after the blip, she's such a big, still important part of keeping structure and order. And it just shows, as you mentioned, the loyalty and just the strength that this character has and the presence in Wakanda that she brings. And yes, the fact that she fights her man, it's my love. Like, I just love that she's got this intensity, but still uses, as I said, these warm words. Just fantastic character.
Oh my God, I'm so excited that you picked her, because she's a character I love so much in the MCU who, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, I felt so frustrated for her on so many occasions, feeling like, oh, she's getting the short end of the stick. Like she has all this stuff that she has to deal with. First with Daniel Kaluuya being a POS, then the scene where she has to watch T'Challa get dusted and just like the anguish on her face as all that's occurring. And then the scene with Ramonda, which is very much, it was a trailer moment. It's her Oscar moment for a reason. But in the film proper, it's so much more effective saying Okoye's role and how she's receiving it. Because she had this failure, but you know that her heart is so much in the right place. She is so devoted to this family and to this country. It was just agony to watch. But then the satisfaction that she gets her moment at the end of Wakanda Forever, she gets to really be involved in the action in her own unique way when she's gifted the armor. I already echo everything you guys have said already, where she has that snark, she has that heart, she has so many of these layers to her, and in such a huge ensemble of memorable characters. M'Baku, Shuri, she still manages to stand out so well. She's amazing. I'm hoping desperately that she's in future projects, that absolutely love her.
She's a badass, and she's a general of a whole female like team. Like that's so freaking cool. And I want to see more of that. I think that's like my biggest complaint is like I want more. I feel like we only get a taste of her, but what we get is so great. But I want more. I want like a full film of her being a general and like the whole team like doing stuff. Like I would love to see that. But yeah, no, she's very loyal. She's a fierce fighter, and she definitely has like that warrior spirit to her. Yeah, great choice.
Did they have a film? I'm sure they had that that probably crossed the table at some point. Were they going to make a film? You know,
I hope so.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that in Falcon, but not like any huge focus. And she's unfortunately not there.
We see a few of the other Dora Milaje like pop up, but not her. I want to see more of her.
Yes, and I just have to mention, when I took my nephew to Disneyland for the first time, we went and we saw her in her little show that she does on Avengers Campus. And like all the kids went out and she showed them how to do the moves. And he just was standing there in awe watching her. He was like, I think 4 at the time. And like, he didn't know how to do the moves. And then when every kid was supposed to come back to their parent, he just stayed up there. So she came down and she like took a moment and talked to him. And at the end of the show, she took his hand and walked with him and kneeled down and just like had this little moment with him. Everyone was cheering my nephew on, because she was trying to get him to do like the little chant in the Wakanda Forever. He was up there by himself and she got him to do the chant and he started dancing. It was just like a beautiful moment with Okoye. So on Avengers Campus. So another reason why I'm just like, yay, Okoye.
Oh my God. So special.
The iconography alone, like she's so damn iconic. And I remember how much just even that scene when they go into like the casino. Forgive me, I'm not as versed as the MCU as you guys all will be. So I see Black Panther is my favorite MCU movie, though. I will say that. And the scene where they all go into, I guess, like the casino, and you've got Kendrick Lamar playing, and just her and Lupita and Chadwick, and they all walk in there, and they look fly as hell, like just instantly iconic. And like you're saying, Jeannine, like you all were saying, it gives me chills just seeing, like, it's one thing to like, I talk about how iconic it is. It's one thing to like to know, oh, we know these characters could be powerful, but really like seeing them and seeing that army of all women, and you can never underestimate how powerful it is actually seeing those characters represented on screen, and you can never get enough. Like I know, like you're saying, like Melissa, we can never get enough of it. Like we want more of it because you just get goosebumps from just simply seeing her in just even a couple scenes, and you guys all said it even better, but she gives me goosebumps just seeing her. Okoye is amazing.
Nicki, your first choice of the night is going to be, I'm so excited, darling. Please tell us about Sailor Moon.
Absolutely. I am a lifelong anime fan, and when it comes to female characters in anime, I feel like it's not an exaggeration that she is possibly the single most iconic. Now, I'm sure, and I'm pretty sure there's magical girl type animes and characters that predate her, but having the first work for Sailor Moon start in 1991, I think it's pretty confident to say that she really has influenced a lot of the kind of works that come beyond that. Cardcaptor Sakura, Tokyo Mew Mew, Mermaid Melody. Like, there's so many of these wonderful works, even Western works like Witch, The Wings Club, that I feel like Sailor Moon has really influenced. And in terms of the character herself and all the Sailor Scouts, Guardians, Senshi, whichever version you watch, they, as a collective, another team of badass female characters who come together that have this goal that's greater than themselves. And in Sailor Moon's case, she's pretty damn reluctant to do at first. And that's kind of the joke, and why part of me was wondering, like, oh, do I even want to talk about her? Do I want to pick one of the other ones? Because she's a bit of a crybaby. She's very, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. I just want to be a normal girl. And the more I thought about that is, she's 14, at least initially. Of course, that's how a teenage girl would react when a talking cat shows up and is like, hey, you gotta like save the world now and fight people. In a lot of ways, that makes her incredibly relatable. I'm lazy and I like to eat. Why the hell not? But at the same time, she is such a good-hearted person. And eventually she embraces the role. She develops these super deep and wonderful relationships with all the other scouts. And they come together. And it's just such a wonderful, iconic series. Again, with almost entirely female characters, barring Tuxedo Mask, whose main function is to be her love interest. So nice to have the subversion of that. And like I said, I think it's lasted for so long for a reason, with the anime, the live action show, multiple musicals, the manga, the readaptation of the anime. I think it has just lasted so long for a reason, because they're all very relatable as not just these idealistic figureheads and heroes, but just as these deep characters who I could tell you why I love so many of them. But overall, like her specifically, even though she is flawed and she has these less than heroic qualities, she is relatable, and she honestly exhibits the best traits that you can find in a hero.
I love this so very much. And the Sailor Moon character, I think you wrapped her up so nicely, because that's the thing. She's not a Mary Sue type character where she's instantly great at everything. Like in the first couple of episodes, she doesn't know what she's doing, and she cries and her little like ear, whatever these are called, the odungos, like start buzzing out, and then that would make the villains tense up. But she grows into it. And you're right, it's Sailor Moon, Serena the character is strongest with her heart, because she will run in to save the day. She will run into a burning building to grab someone out and save them. And it's fantastic. And I like that you said this is technically, Melissa knows, I brought this up on nearly every episode because it's similar to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's similar to the Golden Girls, it's similar to where you have just those strong archetypes of different characters, and everyone can see themselves in one of those characters there. You can watch the show and relate to a particular one. But the character of Sailor Moon herself isn't initially strong, but strength of character, strength of heart, strength of just trying. She just tries all the time, and that's what's so great about Serena and Sailor Moon, and why I think you're right. It's going to be a generational thing now. So we grew up with the 90s one and with the deep dub, but now that they've redone it and they're doing all the movies, there's so many pop vinyls, like there's so much merch still out there, and I think little girls are still being able to see themselves in these characters and in this universe. And as you said, she's like the queen of the anime at this point. Like, that is the character.
Yeah, I did grow up with the Deke dubs. I would watch it every morning before I went to school. I was late like Serena because I would be watching it before I headed out for school.
I found myself Sailor Moon says.
Yes, of course. I found myself to be more of a Sailor Jupiter because I had like 10 crushes on boys going at the same time. But I love Serena. I like you said, she's incredibly relatable. She is totally reluctant to do it, but she still goes in and does what she needs to do anyway. She's such a good friend. She's kind of the leader of this group. And so I love when she has those hard moments, she is able to kind of fight against everything and step into that role and lead these scouts. And she's just so funny and silly. And yeah, I just love the relatability of her so much.
I love to bring up the leadership because that's also a big part of it as well. With like Mars thinks she should be leading it, and in the manga, like Venus is like the leaders of the inner ones, and even in season 3, when you get all the outer ones come into it, and they're like, "You're not our princess," and yeah, she really gets tested throughout and comes through at the end of the day every time. So I love that.
I can't add specifically to that because I only watched a little bit of Sailor Moon, but Nicki, you were inspiring me when you were talking about, because I watched a ton of Cardcaptor Sakura, and everything you were describing about Sailor Moon, I was like, oh my god, yeah, that totally influenced it so much, and I used to obsess about Cardcaptor Sakura. But I will say this. I only would see, like, this is how influential Sailor Moon was, at least for me, from my experiences, because I only saw like a few episodes of it, but I would draw all of them in my notebooks, like all of them, like Neptune, Jupiter, like Venus, like obviously Sailor Moon. I would draw them so much because I thought they just looked so badass, and I loved how they were all different colors. Yes. And that was like influential enough, like for me, and I love even hearing you guys talk about it more. I had never really thought about it, but I'm thinking about it more, hearing you guys talk about it, how it's all the things that I maybe loved, all the things that I loved about Cardcaptor Sakura. It was like, that was a whole team. That was a whole squad of girls having each other's backs and saving the world together in a sense. And that really doesn't happen a lot. I mean, that didn't happen enough in the mainstream, and it just puts it in perspective even more, just how huge Sailor Moon's influence was and how big of a deal and how awesome she was. That's all I had to say.
Just see girls get in there and fight, and there'd be times where like two scouts would be together and they'd team up and their superpowers would combine, and we'd be like, like, it's just nice that we got to see that sort of thing. Mel, I know you missed the train, love, but we will be watching Sailor Moon. But from like a pop culture perspective, what are your thoughts on the character?
I mean, obviously you guys are very excited about it and it influenced a lot of things. I just feel like I missed, like, I don't remember ever seeing it like on TV or like anything, like, and I didn't really have friends that like talked about it either. So like, I'm like, was I like asleep when this was happening? It's just like a huge blind spot for me, like fully. Along with the Golden Girls.
I feel the same, yeah.
If I can add a quick thing. So I know nothing about Sailor Moon, but I just wanted to jump in. I did have friends who liked it though, and I wanted to be the person that Marisol is, who had the talent to be able to draw the little anime people in the notebooks. Like, I had so many friends who were always drawing Sailor Moon characters, and I'm like, I just want to be able to do that. But that's to my extent of Sailor Moon.
I love that though.
Oh yeah, that was like a big playground thing, like role playing the Sailor Moon characters. Which one were you, and all that. Very good.
Yeah, so I feel like I had to add some type of horror character. And there were so many to pick from. This was really challenging because I could have picked somebody from, way back or like farther back. I know last time we were all together, Jeannine talked about Sidney Prescott, which obviously she's great. We talked about that last time. There were a couple of other more current characters that I thought about picking, but honestly, I think Erin is really one of the most like badass characters to come out in like a slasher horror movie in recent years. It's crazy that the movie's like 10 years old already, a little over 10 years old, but still, she's a really great character. Even just from the beginning of it, you learn little bits and pieces about her. And basically her backstory is she grew up in basically like some type of like cult, not really a cult, but basically her dad was
a survivalist camp,
yeah, like
kind
a
of thing.
shelter type of thing. And so she was basically trained until she was a teenager. So she has all of these skills and knowledge, and she's put in this situation with her boyfriend's family, and they're all getting attacked. And just you see her come out and just all of the knowledge that she has. She's making all of these little traps. She knows exactly what to do from the very beginning. She knows how to heal and dress wounds that these family members are getting. Just really smart stuff. And then you get further and you just see her really take off, and she knows how to just take out every single person that she needs to one by one. And ultimately, in the end, I mean, the ending of the movie is really just, it's a little bit frustrating, but I still consider her a final girl, honestly. I just think it's really impressive, her getting through all of these people, just with all of this little knowledge and like, just all of these little things that you learn about her. I think she's really one of the more impressive characters. And even she, throughout the entire movie, like she gets stabbed, she gets in multiple places, and she's just able to still take out all of these people who are coming after her. I think it's just really impressive and just really one of the more impressive and cool slasher movie girls in the past like 10 so years.
I haven't had a chance to see this one yet, but it seems to me from what I've seen, it really is emblematic of what we got in the 2010s of just competent young women in horror. We got to see that a lot, just women that were young girls that were able to fight back, to make plans, as you sort of said, to not just be relying on being saved or just running scared. It's not just like I think Carmel Electra in Scary Movie of like running, like we moved on from that parody, like, and we got to see girls start fighting back, and that's just so cool.
Well, I mostly just wanted to shout you out for picking her because I feel like she is a very underrated final girl.
Yeah.
The perfect girl for this situation. It's not how like she's thrown into the situation and like it doesn't make sense. Like you said, like they were really smart with doing this slow reveal of, how she grew up and her naturally having these abilities because of how she was raised and how it just fits perfectly for the situation. She's tough. Like I love seeing her wield that axe and like take out a bunch of dudes. And like you said, even when she's injured, she still knows how to navigate that to, keep herself safe and stop these people from what they're doing. So she's a total badass. I love that you picked her.
Oh my gosh, this movie is so fantastic. And she is easily if she has a good argument for being one of the best final girls ever, just because you can attribute a lot of her abilities to her upbringing, but a lot of it is also very clearly instinctual. She's just intelligent. She has the common sense that a lot of the other characters in this movie completely lack. And that really does seem to contribute to her ability to survive this insane situation. And I wish there was a better word, something that's not just realistic. But I think what I also love about the movie is it does feel a lot more steeped in realism. Because guess what? Not every killer is going to be competent out there. Not all of them are going to be the scary, terrifying person under a mask. No, some of them are actually going to be pretty dumb, probably because they're in that line of work to begin with. But anyway, no, I think she's fantastic because they also portray her as just this normal college student who, yes, she has kind of this quirky upbringing, but she's just a normal person like anyone else. But she uses what she has in this situation to demonstrate again how intelligent and how like there's just so much more to her that, hey, when you're put in this specific situation, there are going to be some people who will just be able to thrive in it and others who very clearly will not. But I think that is definitely what sets her apart from even so many other final girls. Man, I wish Adam Wingard would make more movies like this. Maybe when he made it, his success went into Ty West, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
I think this is a great choice. She was on my brainstorming list, so touche. But I will say it's kind of crazy that she was, because I've only seen the movie once, but that's what I mean. Like, she's so strong, and I agree with what y'all are saying. Like, I think she is one of the top final girls, and I think the characters played with really good intensity. There's great fight scenes and really brutal kills, and she's definitely somebody that you're watching, and I don't know, at least when I was watching it, I was screaming at my screen saying, "You go, girl!"
Yeah, Erin Brockovich, let me just say straight up, get my bias all out of the way. Erin Brockovich is one of my favorite movies just ever. I saw it when I was really young because my parents had HBO at the house. So I watched a whole ton of movies that, I watched a lot of movies on like TBS, TNT, like, and ABC, CBS, all like the regular channels. But then I saw all these like more adult movies, like probably a little like that I shouldn't have been seeing when I was like 9 and 10 and stuff, which I think is also just what made me love movies so much more, like at such an accelerated rate when I was a kid. But Erin Brockovich was absolutely one of my favorites because of just how much it impacted me and painted this picture of a woman unlike any I'd seen before. And no, she doesn't actually kick literal ass. Like, she doesn't actually punch people and be a badass in that sense. But like I said, she was a kick-ass woman in a way that I was still kind of grappling with as a really young girl. And I just kept revisiting as I was growing up. She's iconic. I'm going to use a character in a movie. She's based on a woman in real life, but her character in the movie, the way she's dramatized in this movie, just takes her to the next level and makes her just a larger than life badass woman. She's a single mother raising 3 kids. She's been divorced twice. And she, through sheer nerve and like brazen determination, like pushes her way into this job at this law office, and she ends up unleashing this class action lawsuit, the biggest settlement up to that time in history against this corrupt water and electric company that was poisoning all its clients in this small town in California. And it was a landmark case. And what I love about the movie so much, what I love about the character of Erin so much, of many things, is the ways that she defies the expectations of women, the ways that her character and her journey pushes back against all these perceptions of femininity and these assumptions and these stereotypes and this inherent misogyny pushing in on her from her environment. From the opening scene in this movie, she gets hit by this douchey like surgeon, and she loses her court case against the guy. She's in a car accident against this guy, but she loses the case because the jury makes all these assumptions because she's been divorced twice and she's really, really crass. You know, she's not polished. She's not a polite lady. She doesn't hold her tongue, and she's poor, and people make all these assumptions about her. And so much of this movie is kind of redefining and pushing against people's expectations of a single mother, of a hardworking mother, what supposedly an upstanding woman is supposed to be. And she defies all of those with a big F you to everybody who crosses her path. I love this movie so much because of how much this woman verbally takes down every man who tries to make her small in her path. Every single last one. And a couple ladies too. Poor ladies again. Yeah. There's a couple women too who make the mistake of like trying to check her.
Okay, look, I think we got off on the wrong foot here. That's all you got, lady. 2 wrong feet in fucking ugly shoes.
And she is immovable. She's unstoppable. She's a ferocious mother. and just trying to make it in the world and define the notions that only super educated people or super rich people or people in a super with the opportunities in front of them aren't have to work. They have to work 10 times harder to get that respect for themselves. And she made a big impact on me as a kid. I know I'm going on a lot about this.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend. And she is the moment. Now, come on now.
But I love everything about it. From her unapologetic, she shows up at work at this law firm every day looking like she about to go in the club. And like she's about to go in the club. She got like cat eyes, like tight leopard leather skirts. She got her push-up bra like showing through.
Hair,
and
yeah.
she's everything. She's bringing everything. And her boss tells her to you should probably dress a little more appropriately. Or she's like, F you, no. And she gets her job done. And she's this pillar of being uncompromising, but having just being authentic to yourself and maintaining your integrity in everything you do and being unwavering and true to yourself as a woman. And knowing your pillars, knowing what the pillars that make you are, and sticking to it, maintaining your authenticity, maintaining your integrity, and not letting every person change or your circumstances tell you, or society tell you what you should be, what your limitations are, try to put you in that box. She's always represented that to me. And on top of it, it's a ferociously entertaining movie. I think it's the best performance absolutely of Julia Roberts' career. I know everybody talks about Pretty Woman, but this is the defining Julia Roberts movie. This is the woman I want to be. I don't want to be the woman in Pretty Woman. I want to be Erin Brockovich. I want to be Julia Roberts as Erin Brockovich. And I'm done. I've never really talked about Erin Brockovich, so I guess this is a really good outlet. Yeah.
I love it up here.
I've just lived with that character and those feelings for years.
Love it.
I love that so very much. And it's so funny, when I saw this pick, I'm like, great choice, because I feel like this is a bit of a forgotten story. I remember it being really big in the 2000s when we were growing up and seeing it a lot. But it feels, and especially with the way you're describing it, it feels even more pertinent today when we talk about Me Too and Time's Up and gender equality and like the pay gap. So we still got all those modern issues. We talk about like climate change. We talk about the 1%. We talk about just the differences in the socioeconomic spread of wealth, even just globally. Like these are all key factors that you're seeing in that movie. So why are we not talking about it more? Because in 2000, like we had this movie here. It should still be like, hey, this one here, because it shows you everything that we're still going through as a society. So this is one that I'm more keen to revisit now since talking about it in your impassioned speech. I just love it because that's what I remember about it as well, is Julia Roberts being this character showing that you can force your own destiny, you can be the change you want to see, and that it also really was a sign of one person can make a difference. And I love movies like that. One person can use their voice to speak up and that you can be heard, because that's not always the case in our real life. So it's great when we get to see those sorts of stories.
Yeah, I mean, a couple years ago, I made this TikTok prompt, like, what is a scene in a movie you just can't wait to get to every time you watch it? And this film is full of scenes that you just can't wait to get to, where she's giving these crazy speeches telling people what's what. So such a great character who's kicking ass in other ways. And, she gives up a lot because, this is really important to her. She meets this great stand-up guy and she gives him up because taking care of this case and these people are so important to her, taking care of her children. Early on in the film, she goes without eating to use her last few dollars to have her kids, have something to eat. When she meets these clients who are basically being poisoned by this big corporation, she takes the time to talk to them and she cares about them, and she gets her boss to go and see these people so he can see them as people as well. When she gets this job in the first place, she creates this position for herself. She goes in there and says, you're going to give me a job. So I just love her power, her strength, her vulnerability, her ability to care about these people, not see them like a lawyer sees them, and how invested she gets in, making this happen to fix these things for these people, and just doing all of this while also trying to take care of her kids. So
yeah, this is a movie that has stayed with me, and I have not seen it in over 20 years, but because you chose it, I rewatched it and I was like, wow, this movie still hits so hard. And I couldn't I couldn't believe how much I still remembered so much of it. And I just have a really distinct memory of watching this with my mom. And yeah, it's really stayed with me over the years, but it wasn't one I did revisit for whatever reason. And yeah, I love how authentic she is to herself. And yeah, she is a fighter, and she really believes in this cause and doing what's right for the greater good. And even if it seems impossible, because definitely at different points in the film, it's is this gonna actually be a happy ending to the story? Yeah. And it's really cool to see. And yeah, I love her tenacity and just the fight to do what's right. Yeah, she's a great character, and it's a great performance.
There's something, Kelli, that you had said that really hit me. The way you phrase it is, why do we not talk about her more as a character? Why don't we kind of think of her as kind of the go-to of a strong, kick-ass female character? And for me, I didn't watch this movie until a lot later as an adult. And it's fantastic. She's a great character. And the first thing that I thought of is, wow, this is Elle Woods if Elle Woods wasn't rich. Because, and look, love Elle Woods, love that movie. But I think part of it is because it's not pretty to watch. It's not as comforting or as, in a lot of ways, visually appealing. It's grittier. And I think that's a huge reason probably why it has not been, and unfortunately, more accessible to people, or even unfortunately as appealing. But that's the kind of art and characters that I think are going to have the biggest impact, is stuff that kind of takes you out of that comfort zone. And especially more as an adult, she resonates with me so much more for her selflessness, for looking out for these people, for metaphorically getting her hands dirty with all of this. Because I'm not a single mother of 3 myself, but just me being able, I feel more resonating with her and just understanding that difficulty. I mean, like Jeannine said, the scene of her not eating while she lets her kids do what she wants, but putting up that front for them of, oh, guys, I won the case. I had this big lunch.
Boss bought me a big lunch, so I'm good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's that it's sad, but beautiful at the same time, because that is a show of strength in itself. And I agree, this is a movie and character that absolutely needs to be watched more.
Yeah, so I was very late to the party of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I only watched it for the first time 2 years ago, and my mind was kind of blown. I was like, why do we not talk about this movie? This movie's amazing. There's amazing set design, costumes, the fight choreography. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. And just the emotion of the story and the performances. And so I was kind of just who is this woman? I need to watch more of her films, because she blew me away in that movie. I need to research her a bit more and watch more of her movies. So yeah, for the past week or so, I've been watching more of her movies. So I got to watch Hero and House of Flying Daggers, and I didn't get to finish it, but I started The Grandmaster. But yeah, through all these movies, she's just such a badass, and she's gorgeous. And I feel like in a lot of these movies, she kind of plays this double life character, or kind of has these multiple sides to her. And yeah, I think she's just somebody who doesn't get talked about. And I think she's a very great, dramatic performance style actress, but also the fight choreography. It's so badass and cool. I'm just I want to do this. I want to be her. And I feel like she can do so much with her eyes. She's one of those actresses that I feel like when she's on screen and looking at the camera, it's she's piercing into my soul. And yeah, she's awesome. So I wanted to bring her today to talk about.
Love when you find someone you do the deep dive into them all. It's great. You said this is the lady from Memoirs of a Geisha as well, correct?
Yes.
Because that's the one I remember watching first and being like, wow, this lady is just beautiful and graceful. But then I was the same. I came to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon only a couple of years ago, and it's one of those ones like, oh, I get it now. Because like when you miss those sorts of ones and everyone's in the pop culture and talking about it, loving it, you don't see it till later. You're like, now, yes, I was missing out on because it wasn't what I thought it would be, thinking it would just be like a very straightforward, typical martial arts movie. Like, it's zany and it's funny and she's great in it. And as you sort of said, like that fight choreo is so engaging, and just to see this woman doing these great moves throughout, like, because we think of Bruce Lee and we have great names like that, but I don't know if we have that female version just yet, so it would be great to see that a little bit more.
I always Zhang it's I always keep refreshing myself on how to say her name. No, she was the face of international action in the early 2000s. Like Crouching Tiger just put her on the map. I remember her everywhere, and she was incredible in all those movies you name. But you know what? Goofily enough, you know what I think? I remember her the most. She's just, when I think of her, obviously Crouching Tiger, but I think of her in Rush Hour 2 and how mad Chris Tucker gets because she beats his ass so much in that movie and he just can't. He's like, what? Like, he's just not ready for it every time. He's like, oh, you're fine. And then she roundhouse kicks him to the face and like knocks him completely out, and he's just not ready for it. She was a silent killer. Like she was petite. She's just porcelain, like fairy-like, and then absolutely will lay you out. Like, what an absolute stone cold killer. I love, Melissa, you mentioned, I never thought about that. Those two, like she's this double-edged sword. She's like a real life Mulan, where she's just like, she had to be like the sweet little geisha in the beginning and everything, but then she really is like a kick-ass warrior, like, and people don't even realize that she is. And she's really terrific. She's really a spectacular actor, super, super talented. And she was everywhere. She was like the face of like female badassery when I was like in my adolescent stage. And she's awesome in Crouching Tiger. I'm so happy that she's an international superstar. So I totally echo and support you picking her.
Swing back around to my second pick. I got in first with some of my picks and I said I'm cheating straight away because I cannot absolutely separate these ladies at all, and the impact that they had on me. It is one of the first DVDs I ever owned, watched it multiple times, watched all the special features and all that, watched the behind the scenes and how they did all the stunts. Charlie's Angels, and I'm talking Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore. These ladies are awesome. Let me start with just the Destiny's Child song, like, to kick it off, because like Independent Woman, that's a bop. Charlie's Angels, come on.
Charlie's Angels, come on.
Like, gets you going from the start. The tone of the film, I think, supports it a lot because it's a comedy. It's an action comedy. And so when they're using the property from the 70s and they're leaning into it, it just lets all the ladies shine in a different way. And very similar to a Sailor Moon, each lady has a very distinct and different personality, you know. And so you've got Cameron Diaz as Natalie, and she's very brainy but ditzy at the same time, but confident. You've got Drew Barrymore, who's like a bit of a badass, and you've got Lucy Liu, who's come from this rich background, but just absolutely kills it, like will take you out and is living this double life, as we sort of said with, I nearly said Joe Tribbiani. I've been watching Friends again with Matt LeBlanc. But just the fight scenes are great. The espionage parts are fun. I think about like Cameron Diaz in that white suit doing these flips into the ball. I think about Lucy Liu in that Barracuda moment. Oh my goodness. With the whip, like, kills. And then I love Drew Barrymore when she's tied up in the chair and she does the Sherlock Holmes before Robert Downey Jr. did it. She did it 8 years earlier, where she lays out exactly how she's going to take down every single one of those guys. And that is kicking your ass. Thrust out of there. It's just such a fun time. I really enjoy this movie. The creepy thin man, I think about how, they're very inspired by The Matrix, doing like the
wire work. Yeah.
And just like all climbing the fence and the poses and everything. I loved it. These are funny, amazingly talented, great women who get the job done and just feel like a bunch of girls you just want to hang out with.
I absolutely love these movies. I think a lot of people talk about how movies today feel so undersaturated, but this movie is so bright and poppy. I love, like you said, they're all very different, but they work together so well. I love that we get these distinct depictions of their personalities, and then when they kind of come together, they all understand each other in a really interesting way. And they look like they have so much fun together. I love that the movie is incredibly campy and over the top, but somehow it still works. It's such a great balance of action and comedy. And yeah, they're just hilarious together. And again, I was totally a Dylan because I had crushes on like 20 people at once and would fall in love with everybody. So she was always my favorite. But yeah, I love the three of them together, kicking ass and having so much fun together.
Oh, dude. Where to begin? I mean, these were my Avengers. These were my superheroes. They were the ultimate. Like, I guess 2000 was a major year for me. This is the year Miss Congeniality came out, Bring It On came out, Aaron Brockovich came out, and Charlie's Angels came out. This was like a defining year for chicks for me. But and Charlie's Angels was no exception. They're the ultimate action badass female fantasy. I mean, I say fantasy even though they're relatable. They're relatable, but obviously this is all heightened, and it's we get our own extreme. We get our own Schwarzenegger and Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme's in the form of these Charlie's Angels. They're action goddesses. And I think it's really a testament. I think the reason why, Jeannine, you mentioned that fine line of camp, but high saturation, colorful, infectious energy, I think you can attribute it a lot to Nick G being the director. He had done all music videos
and stuff.
Yeah. He knows how to get that beat, that pulse of the scene, of the energy, to keep that energy up, and the music. This movie. This is a defining, I can't tell you how much music I was exposed to, how much 70s music, 80s music, rock, all these iconic hits I was exposed to because of this movie. And Cameron, Lucy, and Drew, they all make it look so damn good. And they're the full package. They are completely badass while also looking super freaking hot. I wanted to be them. I wanted to be the full package, because you can be the full package as a chick. And Charlie's Angels completely reminded me of that, and I echo everything you guys are saying. I have these movies on Blu-ray. I watch them repeatedly to this day. Second one still slaps. Right? All right, it's not the first, but the second one. I love how the wildest thing when people are like, "Oh, first one's great, the second one sucks." I'm like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "What are you watching?"
Demi Moore looks amazing. Terrible Irish accent, but he looks hot.
I know. It all works, and like you said, creepy thin man. I like to think of Charlie's Angels as I don't think movies that we make a lot nowadays. I think everything is so meta and self-aware and so forced. And Charlie's Angels is this perfect, almost perfect, unironic, pre-meta, just moment of pop culture entertainment that just hits every beat so well. And it's because the three of them are so effortless. And I love that Drew Barrymore put her heart and soul into making sure this got made. And 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 I love it. And I went and revisited. I loved it so much. I did go and revisit the original Charlie's Angels, like a lot of the show and the original movie from the 70s and stuff. Not as fun, but still also, but still totally special, and it works. So yeah, I can't share more love than I already have for the Charlie's Angels.
I love that you bring up that soundtrack, because as soon as I hear the Prodigy and like
Oh, so good. And the Pink song in the sequel, I love that Pink song.
Yes.
This movie is a part of my DNA. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I watched this on repeat. This was a sleepover staple. Like, yeah, this was just constantly on repeat during my entire childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Smack My Bitch Up song,
Yeah.
that is my favorite song to run to. Just to,
I run to it too.
I definitely recommend putting it on your workout playlist. It's like the best song to run to.
That and Firestarter from the second one.
Yes!
Anything Prodigy.
Yeah, Prodigy's great to run to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene like literally lives rent free in my head. I think about it, I feel like at least once a week. Like, I think about it probably a little too much. I'm obsessed with the creepy Thin Man scene. Oh, like
Yes.
That's like when we first brought this prompt up, that was immediately what I thought of. So I was like, thank you for choosing this, Kelly. Yeah, this has the perfect like balance of humor and kicking ass, and just the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent of these women. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think it speaks to just how great this character is, that like every live action version of Selina Kyle's Catwoman is great, is well done. Batman Returns is my favorite iteration, but Zoe did an amazing job. I think Anne Hathaway did an amazing job, because I always have this thing with Anne Hathaway. I don't know if I can explain it. Like, her acting is like she's acting how she thinks an actress is supposed to act. So like when she's in a movie, she has this air about her. She's pulling a little transatlantic kind of accent. She's doing a little too much. But in this role, like, she leaned into all the perfect beats of this character. She was sexy, she was mischievous, she was sultry, she was a little devious, but she had the vulnerability, which is what I love about Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, is that vulnerability of the character. That she's just this perfect match for Bruce, that they both are dealing with this duality of who they think they have to be, the mask being the real them, and then like this happy life version of themselves that they want to be together. So the vulnerability of the character is absolutely amazing. And then when she kind of comes into her own and becomes Catwoman, and she's just kicking ass and beating people up and saying what she means and putting birds in her mouth, like Michelle Pfeiffer actually did that. Just amazing. Like, I love this character. She's so badass. I love that she's kind of morally gray. Like, she does these bad things, but then she kind of pulls it back, and she'll kind of come in and be the hero in moments, or save Bruce when he needs her. And, so you never know what to expect from her. And then just how sexy she is. Like, she looks incredible in every iteration of that cat suit. And, she does kind of have this Robin Hood vibe kind of going on as well, like, stealing from the rich and helping out the little guy kind of thing. Particularly, I think Anne Hathaway's Catwoman was more like that. So I just love every iteration of this character. She's just very cool.
Oh, I love this show so very much. And I think it's like growing up, I think Batman tends to be one of the first heroes we're introduced to. I think it's one of the first people we tend to see. It's very kid-oriented. So then Catwoman is one of the first love interests / villains we're also introduced to. And I just remember seeing her and thinking that's just so different, because, like, do I cheer for her? Like, do I like her? Like, she's doing bad things, but she's amazing. So I love that you say that she does live in that morally grey, and that does keep carrying on TV series, movies, everything. Yeah. We don't need to talk about the basketball scene from Catwoman.
Yeah. She's not Selina Kyle. That's why I was very specific.
Thank you very much.
No Patience Phillips in here, She knows. I see you.
I'm very much the same. My first one was definitely Michelle Pfeiffer, and just the whip scene that she pulls out with that she did it in one take. Like, that is sick.
Yes.
The suit. The way I'm just a Michelle Pfeiffer sucker no matter what, but the way she plays it more maddening, because I guess we're doing this, the more the Tim Burton, and it fits the vibe of what the scene of the movies are. But just things like meow,
Meow.
like when she pulls like little things like that, or honey, I'm home. Oh, that's right, I live alone. Just like
the whole like second series of that sequence of events. Yes, it's so good.
But the chemistry of her and Bruce is what always like pulls it back in. Like it is just fire. And I think of that Michael Keaton scene where they're dancing. It's like they realize
with the mistletoe line. It's so good.
It's amazing. But like I said, she's able to stand on her own, but be great with Bruce. Like she's really just able to navigate all those different worlds. And then we got the Arkham City games, and that informs our more Zoe Kravitz recent, the Batman one. So I just, as you sort of said, like any Selena Kyle is good Selena Kyle with me.
I love this choice. I love the DC character love with this choice and Marisol's mug, and I got my Nightwing coaster.
Hey.
But this is such a great choice because I love that this character has been interpreted so many different ways, and they all fit because all the Batman movies have been so vastly different tonally, and the fact that they find all these creative ways to make these same characters work, but it never feels like a carbon copy or an attempt to repeat or mimic it. Michelle Pfeiffer, I love to refer to her as the wish fulfillment Selena, in the sense that she's the meek secretary at first with the shitty boss, and then she comes back with such an aggressive vengeance in a very Burton-y way, and she, to the point where she's ready to take care of him and all the other shitty people around her. Because I think it's fair to say it's a bit over the top, but that's the tone they're going for, and that's what makes it so salivating. Though I am a huge fan of Zoe's interpretation, though, and I love the Batman. That was one of my top 2 of 2022. And I love her portrayal because she feels like such a fleshed out, well-rounded character. She has a lot of those traits, but she also has such a big heart. She has her roommate, potentially girlfriend, that she wants the vengeance for, and she gets pushed to these limits. And while Bruce does kind of rein her back a bit, it just shows that she is trying to do the right thing. She's on the same wavelength as him, but ultimately they do go their separate ways because they have their own missions they are looking to accomplish, and they're both devoted to them. And I think that's honorable. And the way she goes about it, is it questionable? Yeah. Is it awesome? Also, yeah. And I totally respect it. So this is such a fantastic choice.
I love all of the different Catwoman characters. And again, how all of them are just so different. How we get the Tim Burton version, and then the Christopher Nolan, and then the new version. All of them are all really unique. And again, I love a complicated character as well, where you said, Kelly, where it's am I supposed to root for her and what she's doing? Just this complicated feeling, but it's I feel like I do want to root for her just because she's so cool. And I don't know. It's just, I agree. It's a really great choice. Love fight scenes with her. Again, all iterations of her. She's just such a cool character. Really unique and again, complicated, but just a character you want to love.
Obviously agree with everything that's been said. I do find it particularly interesting how Catwoman has evolved. She has evolved from being definitively a villain to becoming this anti-hero, over the years. I really like that push and pull. I like adding that layer. We see plenty of, particularly when it comes to women and female characters in film, they're pure, they're pure of heart, or they're villains. They're either Cinderella or the Wicked Witch, they're pretty, it's pretty cut and dry. And I applaud characters like Catwoman, really, like you have all said, filling in that gray area a little bit more and realizing that there are a lot of other complicating factors that affect women and not necessarily men, and make their decisions a lot more difficult. And Zoe Kravitz's version of Selena Kyle is the epitome of that. She's a marriage. I feel like she's a marriage of Anne Hathaway's Selena and Michelle Pfeiffer's Selena, where really having her own reasons. And Jeannine made up the great Robin Hood point about having her own reasons for why her own drive and reasons for why she's doing what she's doing. And similar to Batman, makes her such an excellent foil for Batman. She is her own kind of vigilante. She has her own reasons for doing what she's doing. The law be damned, but she doesn't really care about, like whether whether worrying about whether it fits somebody's neat box of morality or not. And there's something really freeing about that character, freeing about that idea for a female character. And to see that represented in comic books, particularly comic book characters, which are usually like you're either Wonder Woman or you're like, you're name any super bad female villain, whatever, or you're your Granny Goodness or something like that, like you're somebody really bad. But yeah, I had to keep it right there. Yeah.
Well, actually, Marisol, I'm going to piggyback off that point because that got me thinking that Catwoman is one of really the most iconic female villains that we ever get to see. She's one of the first when we talk about Rogues Gallery, and you go all the way back to the 60s with Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt. Like, it's only the one, it's Catwoman.
Yeah.
Then you name Joker, Riddler, Penguin, Mr. Freeze, all that. So she's like the one, and she's still one of the only. If you did Family Feud survey and you're like, name a female comic villain, she's the one that's going to be like 90% of people's choice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, but she's also been able to kick off more characters. So at least now we do get a bit of more expanded DC universe. We get our Harley Quinns, we get other
Gotham
characters
City
and such.
Sirens,
But
and
she didn't even think of that. So like Birds of Prey, even things like that. Like she was part of I think of Batman Brave and the Bold and like singing in that. Yeah, so we get to see how she's had the effect, at least, in being sort of our DNA character for villains.
Yeah, no, I love the evolution of this character. I love all the different versions of Catwoman, and I love a character that lives in that gray area, a villain, anti-hero, whatever you want to call it. I love complicated, layered, kind of difficult characters. Those are always my favorite. And so Catwoman is awesome to see that it's kind of more in the public, more in the pop culture of it all. I mean, and is still so beloved, even though she kind of does live in this gray area. And she is incredibly sexy. Love the costume. Oh my God. And she kicks ass while doing it. So great pick.
Oh my gosh. So in general, I'm a big Death Game fan. I even for a hot second was like, maybe Amanda Young, but that's too weird. Catching Fire, I absolutely love. I do think it's easily the best of that franchise. And I also recently reread all the books. And Jenna Malone as Joanna is such a scene stealer in Catching Fire very specifically. We do not need to talk about Mockingjay, but in Catching Fire, Joanna makes such an impact amongst all these outlandish, new, older tributes that Katniss and Peeta have to grapple with. And she really stands out because obviously they're all not exactly thrilled with the situation they're in, but her approach to it is initially it's off-putting because she's very aggressive. She strips in front of them in an elevator, which I don't necessarily advise anyone do that. And she just tells the Capitol to F off for what they're doing to her. Not wrong about anything. And then when you find out more about her backstory that, she won her games by pretending to be a weakling until there were a few people left. And then when literal acts crazy because she uses an axe on them. And how when it's not outright said, but it's pretty heavily inferred that President Snow wanted her to be prostituted. She said no. He killed off everyone she loved. So in her mind, that she has kind of this level of freedom to take a harder stance against them. And in a way, I kind of interpret the stripping scene of, hey, this is what you wanted to use me for. You don't get this. And this is almost her way of kind of teasing that. And the way Jenna plays it is she is so sincere in it. And she's also so teasing until she's just ready to call it out. And it's uncomfortable, but the whole situation's uncomfortable. That's how anyone in that situation would want to react in this scenario. And despite all of that, she still, even though she has this reluctance and this animosity towards Katniss, she still goes along with the rebellion and does what she does to try and help everyone for the greater good, even though she has nothing else to go for. She's an uncomfortable character. There's absolutely anti-heroic aspects about her, but she just makes such an impact on me. And for that kind of universe, she's such an interesting spin on these people who are in that situation and just how she is grappling with it.
When you said this pick, I'm like, good choice, because I remember like Jenna Malone killing the book to screen adaptation of this, like really bringing that character off the pages. And I love the way you said how she's so juxtaposed against Katniss, because that's really where it comes from. It's like her aggressiveness is amplified because Katniss has a real naivete about her still. Like she's only just won her games and she hasn't seen the horrors of what a post-war games will be yet. Whereas Joanna has lived through it all. And as you sort of said, like, has no F's given left because she's had to deal with it for so long and then to be dragged back into it. And I do think about her in an act like that. It's just like the one of the two. And I'm like, yes, girl. What a interesting, different sort of character we get for this universe. And as I sort of said, really plays off against Katniss, because you're getting to see different people's perspective and how they've handled it. And just to be a strong, non-passive female presence is amazing.
I just love that she's a realist in this world where people are afraid to speak up, that she doesn't care. She'll say whatever needs to be said. I think that's so relatable, particularly the night of like the final broadcast when everyone's kind of trying to play the audience with these sympathetic stories to make everyone feel bad for them to hopefully like quit the games, like cancel the games. But no, she's just like, F you. Like, I don't want to be here. I hate you for making me be here. This sucks balls. Like, she does not care. So I love that she is so real in saying that in that moment, because that's what we are all feeling watching her. And even kind of when things are getting bad, like she doesn't care that she's spilling the secret of, you know, that they're all there to protect Katniss. Like she doesn't care. So I just love her attitude, but that she's still doing this noble thing, but she's going to do it bitching all the way. So I just love the authenticity of her 100%. Jenna Malone is amazing in this role.
Yeah, totally agree with all of that. Again, another complicated character. I remember back when I was first reading the book series, I remember reading it and I'm like, I don't know if I like this girl. Like, I don't know if I can get behind her. But now, like, and it's still been a minute since I've watched the movies, but her character really is great. Like that elevator scene really is iconic. Like it's really great.
She just gives Haymitch the wink. Yeah.
Yes. And I like just your thoughts behind it and all of that. Like, I didn't actually really think about that. Just her whole rebellious attitude with all of this, like it's just the loudest voice. And I just really liked hearing that, especially in this type of situation that they're all in. Like she seemed like a lot of the times, like she came off louder than Katniss, the main character in all of this. And so I think that just makes her a really special character.
So we're revealing another blind spot of mine. I have only seen the first Hunger Games once in theaters. I've not seen any of the other movies, so I will need to see it. I love Jenna Malone. I was raised on Donnie Darko and Saved, so like this sounds great. But I haven't seen it. I've seen Battle Royale.
amazing dead game movie.
Honestly, I'll be the one to say it. It is better than all the Hunger Games movies. Even though I think the Hunger Games movie, Battle Royale, I think probably be better than all of them. But the books are even better. It's all in the books.
Okay, and I haven't read the books either, so I got homework to do.
Also, even though she didn't, I was going to say real quick, even though she didn't like it, she could pull off dressing like a tree.
There are many movies that I have not seen and I get yelled at for not seeing. So I have actually only recently seen Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. I think maybe like a month or two ago was my first time ever watching it. So yeah, I know. I get yelled at all the time for not seeing movies like that. But it really, like, they're both, well, I guess you can consider it one big movie, but it's really just become a new favorite of mine, especially because of this character of the bride. I thought that her entire story arc, whatever you want to call it, was just really, really amazing in Volume 1. And I think when I was researching little bits, there was a quote from Tarantino that said, like, the first movie, he wanted to make her scary, and he does. The second movie, his purpose was to give more of a backstory and kind of fill in the blanks, give a little bit more detail. And that first movie, she's definitely scary. So many great fight scenes. I mean, especially the one at the very end with Lucy Liu's character and like the big army guarding her. I think it was like an army of like 88 or something like that. Really, really incredible. Like, I loved the fight choreography, all of that. A lot of it is super like over dramatic and crazy, but I think that's just something that makes the fights and all of that really special in this movie, and also just her fighting in general. And then again, we get to volume 2 where you get more of her backstory. And I think just learning a little bit more about her really also makes her just incredibly badass. In fact, the whole thing, like, she gets shot in the head and then she comes back for vengeance. Like, I don't know anybody ever, and I don't know anybody who could ever do that. And obviously she's a character, but just that whole idea of coming back from something like that and just taking out all of the people in this group and all of their henchmen and fighters one by one, I think is incredible. And then just even, I don't know, all of the relationships she has with all of the people along the way, especially at the end with her daughter, I think is just really special also. And I know later on we're going to be talking about someone kind of related to her. I think just going hand in hand with that, talk more later, but I think this character is really special, really, really amazing.
I think this is definitely one of those ones, if you talk about like a female action like character, this is going to pop to a lot of people's heads, because what Tarantino was able to do with The Bride is probably one of the first ones I remember of a woman on this vengeance path, because I think usually you wouldn't see women killing or being killed. And like, I didn't see this movie for the longest time because of the violence, because of the gore. And when I saw it, I still really enjoyed it, but I had to be an adult to be able to see it because I knew it would mess me up if I was too young. So it's great. You think of shots like with her and the sword, and like you seeing her actually take people's lives. And I think that's like an important cinema's milestone to see those sorts of things. And as you sort of mentioned, like the crazy 88 scenes, and just to see like the fact that she's just on this rampage, and then you get to see the reasons why and the lore that they were able to build around with all the characters and all the side characters with Daryl Hannah and Lucy Liu. It's a good, iconic time.
Well, I think learning that she's this assassin, you expect her to be this very cold figure. But the fact that we learn about, her relationship with Bill and how she really did love him. And once she found out she was having this baby, she wanted a fresh start and a new life. And like, even just seeing that beginning scene with the rehearsal and her friends kind of being so supportive of her and loving her. And like, she's going to, even though this is not, a life that she may want, she's doing it because she is just excited to have this baby. So I like that they humanize her right away, despite her being this like killer assassin. I love that she's just merciless in her mission, and she's doing all of this even before she knows that her daughter is still alive. Just amazing fight sequences. I love when they shoot her from below when she's walking and we see that the bottom of her shoes say F you on them. And I just love that she's generally really cool. Like, she's just a cool character. Every time we see her, she's like sunglasses and she's talking really cool and monologuing to the camera. And she is definitely a badass. She's just such a cool character, but also very vulnerable. And we're rooting for her. We don't care that she was kind of, doing these terrible things and killing people for money, because we care about her story and what she's doing and why she's doing it. And just, we feel for her, for all these people that were in her life that she thought, were on her side, so easily being able to turn on her like that.
Yep. You guys are hitting all my my ladies, my gals at this one. Another mega influential cinematic female figure for me when I was really getting into movies as a kid. And this was like, I remember trying to work myself up to watching this for so long, because it was like I remember I had never seen violence like this, and I heard this was like, when it was coming out, I remember in 2003, they were like, this is the most violent American film ever made. And I was like, I was like, that's really intimidating. And I was like, I don't want to see it. And I would watch it at home with like behind like fingers to be like, see like if I could handle stuff. And I learned really hard what kind of violence I can handle, and also which makes me like want to puke. Hint, it has to do with ankles and ankles getting cut. But oh my God, that scene messes me up every time. Oh my God. I'm like, nope, not watching it. But yeah, you all, Abby, you were saying it about how this is, I love the structure, especially when you watch these two movies together, how the creation of this myth and then the almost like deconstruction of the myth in like the second movie in volume 2 really completes a fully rounded, just legendary character. And I just love how much the bride is imbued with like legends of the past. Obviously, a lot of Bruce Lee energy. Tarantino was very. He styled her after Charles Bronson, Bruce Lee, a little bit of whatever, Chuck Norris, and countless other kung fu movies. He saw as a kid. And spaghetti westerns. That's a beautiful beauty of Tarantino. But I think that the bride, maybe more than like any of his characters, is like just one of the most like at the top there of the full package iconic characters all stuffed into one, just like Syrian. And I think she'll remain one of his absolutely, along with the characters from Pulp Fiction, will remain his maybe most iconic character that he's created. Because for the sheer fact that like you didn't have that kind of kung fu legend yet really as a woman. Like, and I love how female the Kill Bill saga is. I love how the internal struggles are inherently female, or struggles with motherhood. And I love that the first major action scene, yes, there's the prologue, but the first major action scene is one woman versus one woman in a room. It's as stripped, as serious, no nonsense as it gets. It's not a cat fight. We're not pulling hair, all right? No, we are cutting bitches, okay? Like, we are straight up. Like, it sets the stage, and that's so exciting. Like you were saying, like you were saying, Kelly, that we don't get to see. It was this new era of women being not worried about being chic or like stunning or like, femme fatales, just being ruthless, stone cold killers. And that is so powerful and exciting in another level. Just very, 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 very influential. On top of all the Charlie's Angels energy I already had going on in the early 2000s. But yeah, I'm so happy, Abby, that you got to get to experience it at this point. Like, at any point, it's just a testament to how whatever point in your life you get introduced to this character, the impact is just deafening and instantly just burns into your brain. So yeah, all the love for Beatrix Kiddo. She's an all-timer.
Yeah, I echo everything that everyone has said. This movie and character was such a big part of my kind of movie journey. Yeah, as I was kind of transitioning from Charlie's Angels, I transitioned to Beatrice Kiddo from the Kill Bill movies. And yeah, I thought I was like the coolest girl ever. I was listening to the soundtrack like on repeat and watching this movie on repeat. And I just thought it was so cool as a preteen watching this all the time. Yeah, no, this movie's amazing. And I love that this character embraces both sides of her as an assassin and a mother. And she kind of fights for her honor and identity because she's like reclaiming, because both of those things got stripped away from her. And I love a revenge story too. And I love gore. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, so we'll piggyback. Synergy is here. Yeah, piggyback right off of Abby's face. As iconic as Uma Thurman is, and she obviously does a lot there as the bride, that movie, what it put on the map for me is the stunt woman Zoe Bell, who is Uma Thurman's stunt woman in the Kill Bill movies. She started out as a stunt woman for Lucy Lawless in Xena Warrior Princess, but I did not realize that because I was not as on the level at that point. But it was really in the 2000s where she was the first stunt woman who I knew the name of this woman. Like, she's a rock star. I think there's so many nameless and well documented stunt women that it came before her doing their thing. And she was like my gateway into learning about all of that. She was the first stunt woman whose name like I actually knew. I looked up and I learned a lot about her. And she became this rock star for me. And it was kind of compounded when I saw Death Proof, which she actually is one of the leads just in that movie. She actually takes it a step further and has like, she's actually just a full-blown actress, just a character.
Playing herself, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. I've just been in love with her ever since. She's been this inspiring figure to me. She's just such a badass. I love that she's a Kiwi. I love that I love that she maintains this pluckiness, and now I look for her. Like when I started to learn more about her, I would go back to episodes of Xena, and certainly through the Kill Bills, I look for it. I'm like, oh my God, there's Zoe doing her thing. And I'm there are probably people who share this same sentiment, but just she elevated my enthusiasm, my excitement for stunt women and stunt work. And I think that's something that we all talk about. It's a big conversation even to this day about how underappreciated stunt people are. Like all the people who go, men and women, particularly women, because of the long history of them just putting wigs on men because they didn't want to give female stunt women like a job. How many times have you just seen don't get me started how many times you see a movie and like somebody tosses like the female character through a wall and you're like, that's a dude.
That's totally a dude.
That's a dude. It's upsetting. And I feel like Zoe Bell's kind of pop there, especially her rise to prominence in the 2000s. I feel like it gave this kind of invigorated this kind of a revived interest, kind of a push, kind of a spike in us seeing a lot more stunt women being kind of take center stage. And then not that she wasn't necessarily a stunt woman. She was I think a MMA fighter, but Gina Carano also kind of carried that kind of torch of being somebody who fighting is a thing they do. Like stunt work is a thing they excel at, and that became kind of their on-screen persona. I could have chosen her, but I didn't want to choose her. But yeah, so Zoe Bell's pretty awesome, and I love that she continues to this day. And you read up more about her, and it just reminds you how much when you see how much she's been injured, how much it reminds you of how much these women sacrifice their bodies to make make that action look as cool as it looks. Like the reason they physically sacrifice it, that this action, this badassery these women can look as badass as they can in films. And just wanted to shine a spotlight on her because she's great.
I love that because, as you sort of said, we're starting to talk more about the recognition of the stunt industry. And you look at the Zoe Bell Wikipedia and like she's won like World Stunt Awards, and she is someone who got to have her own name because the big crux of your job is to look like someone else and to dissolve into a role. So it's pretty interesting that she does have her own name and it has come to promises. And I love that work with Tarantino. And I was absolutely going to bring up as well that she's a New Zealander. So I love that she worked with Taika Waititi for Thor Ragnarok. I love that.
Zoe the fucking cat. I absolutely love her. Death Proof is actually my favorite Tarantino movie. I just love the female dynamics in that film. They feel so real and relatable to conversations that I have with my own friends. So I love her relationships with the girls in that movie. She's hilarious. She's great at the stunts. And it's great seeing the stunts and it's her doing it. Like they can do them full on and you see that it's her. I remember seeing a video of her reaction when Tarantino told her she got the part of Uma Thurman's stunt double in Kill Bill. And she was just so excited and emotional. And so immediately I was just in love with her. The last time I was on with you guys, I couldn't put a point on who Melissa reminded me of. And then I saw something with Zoe Bell. I think I watched Death Proof again. I'm like, Melissa, she reminds me of Zoe Bell.
Oh yeah.
But yes, I think she's amazing. I'm glad she's been able to be herself in a film and show what she can do as Zoe Bell. And she's incredible. So awesome pick.
Well, first, I don't know why, but when you said Gina Carano, I first thought you were going to say Ruby Rose for literally no reason. But other than she is actually a testament to how difficult all of this is and what you have to put yourself through. I believe also in Aussie, but anyway.
Yes.
Anyway, but Kelly, you had brought her up as Hela because I'm not as familiar with her or her work. So when I was doing the research on her and I saw she was Hela, and going back to the point about showing appreciation for stunt people in general. Because when I think Hella, I don't think her as like this beat 'em up physical, like punching the shit out of everyone. And I think that goes to show just the stuff that you don't always think about, that, oh, we need to bring in other people if either the actors need help portraying this, just general physicality, because there's doubles for all kind of physical exertion that exists in film. And I think that definitely speaks to the lack of appreciation for that, or even recognition for that. Off topic, I remember watching the Lizzie McGuire movie and seeing in the credits that Hillary had a dance double, and I was like, what? That wasn't her?
Oh no.
But
That's not what things are made of.
no. But no, so seeing just all these, like, not just the roles she has, the taxing roles that she has had, just go to show even more so how demanding it is, and just the admiration that these people really do deserve.
Yeah, so I actually didn't know a whole lot about her until I started doing research after the pick was made. And I was like, oh, what a coincidence. I picked The Bride, so this is great. Great tie-in. One of the things that I saw, and this could be fake because it was on Wikipedia, but I was reading up, and I guess one of the jobs that she had, which, I mean, this is really, it just goes to show what stunt women and stunt men can go through in their job. I think it was on like the Xena show. She broke like one of her vertebrae or something, broke something, and she continued to work on for like the next week until something else happened on the job that just completely took her out.
So I decided that I was okay and went back to work the next week and had a fight to do where someone broke a breakaway chair. So it's not like a hard chair, but break it over my back. So he went to break the chair over my back and it just dropped me and I was crying. And then I was embarrassed that I was crying on set. I mean, your back's broken. You shouldn't be embarrassed about crying, but I was. And Paul got up and he was pissed at me. It was Paul, my director. And that was a big learning point in my career for me. I was just a bit bummed that it took me to break my back to figure that one out, actually.
Which I thought, I was like, wow, like that is, I mean, incredible. I mean, not good that she continued to work, but it's just something that just goes to show these stunt women and men, like, they really do deserve the recognition that I don't think that they often get. But I think, and now especially after watching the Kill Bill movies, I have like a huge appreciation for her, just with all of the stunts and the fighting that she did in that movie, I think is really incredible. Another movie I haven't seen that people can yell at me for is Death Proof, but I would love to see it and see her in that just as herself, because that really interests me now as well. Just to see her as herself in that movie, in another Tarantino movie, I think would be really interesting. So yeah, I'd love to know more about her.
Yeah, I love this pick. Kelli and I talked about her briefly in our Hall of Fame episode that we did on women behind the camera. And I love that we got to honor somebody behind the camera, because just so often we don't get to do that. So thank you for choosing her. And yeah, she really is the action behind so many of these beloved characters. And it is cool that she's kind of stepping in front of the camera, like doing some acting roles here and there, which is awesome. And yeah, I just hope we get to see more stunt people, women, recognized. Like this year at the Oscars, they kind of like teased it. I was like, are they introducing a new category? And then
casting, right?
Talk about the blue balls moment. Yeah. Like,
I was like, what is this? So hopefully at some point it is maybe more recognized, like in the, pop culture of it all. But yeah, she is the first kind of stunt woman I ever knew by name. So I hope I get to learn more along the way. Yes. So I kind of went with another underdog pick that I don't feel like is talked about very often, which is Naru from Prey. This movie kind of came out of nowhere, I feel like. I had no idea there was going to be a new Predator movie on Hulu, but there was. And I went with like no expectations. And, I watched it at home because they didn't do a theatrical release, which I think is stupid. They should have. This would have been amazing to see in the theaters. And it blew me away. I was like, this is easily the best Predator movie. And it was really cool to see this kind of perspective of it, of this Comanche tribe from like the 1700s. And a female lead, like that's just something you have never seen before. It's just awesome. And yeah, I love this character. She, throughout the entire film is trying to prove herself and, prove specifically to the men in the tribe that she is a hunter and she's worthy of kind of being this fighter. And she definitely proves it towards the end. And I love that the movie definitely uses some like horror tropes of like not listening to the woman. She's like, I think there's something out there. Yeah. The predator. And, she ends up being our final girl in the movie. And yeah, I think the movie has great tension and she's just tough and resourceful and, in these like impossible situations. 'Cause I feel like the Predator is just one of those villains that's just like, how do you beat the Predator? It feels like an impossible villain to beat, but she does it. And yeah, I love her. I think she's great. She's badass. And this should have been in theaters.
This is one I haven't seen, but I've definitely seen the images pop up on Disney Plus. Like, I think that's so striking. The icons that they choose to use, like just of the eyes and of the face and things. I think I've heard nothing but great things about this movie and about this character. And isn't that just so fantastic that we're taking this predominantly 80s macho franchise of all these big, beefy guys taking on the Predator, and that you heard no backlash about a woman now actually being in the lead role. And I think that's just such great progression that we're actually being able to see, because sometimes just being not hearing all the discourse about it being woke or about it, what's a woman doing? Like, it's just nice that it can just be and be awesome.
Yes, I totally hate that this movie did not get a theatrical release. And I do seem to remember a lot of Fragile Man rage happening around the release of this movie, that, oh, she's just a tiny girl, there's no way she could take on a predator, all that kind of talk. But she did a brilliant job. Again, like, I love the horror trope of like nobody listening to her. She's amongst all of these men, they're laughing at her until they are getting slaughtered by this predator. Just generally, like, the concept of the film, like switching the title to Prey, like, we're focusing on the predator's prey, and her being resilient. And we're seeing little things throughout the film before we even know like what's going on with this predator, of her being resourceful, of her, having her own weapons that she uses, her being skilled. So we know she's capable before we go into it. So it's not just all of a sudden she like knows how to do all of these things. She already knew how to do these things before going into this situation. So, and the fact that she is kind of more prepared and looking at things and paying attention to what's going on when no one will listen to her just really speaks to this really strong female character. And her being younger than everyone as well is that much more impressive, with the character kind of stepping into fighting this thing on her own. And I love she's like a little dog sidekick too. It was so cool. So yeah, love this movie, love this character, strong, young, female. And I love just the commitment to this movie to be authentic to the Native culture. I know they like did a whole version of this film in native language as well. So I think that's really beautiful for representation as well.
I love in particular too how, like Jeannine, you said, she does have all these skills, but she's still allowed, this is obviously a situation that's very new for her, and she's allowed to learn. She's allowed the growth in the movie. She's so scared in the beginning of it, because understandably, because it's a frickin' predator, like there's, it's out there, and she's allowed to be scared and to be very, very vulnerable, and just getting by some situations by the skin of her teeth. And you see her actively learning and figuring out, and this is her test. Like all the men in the tribe go through these like their challenges to help them become a man and all that stuff. This is like actively the predator. The toughest challenge of all is like almost like I saw like this is her coming of age. This is her rite of passage into becoming like that complete female warrior. I love that aspect of it, and that's tougher than anything that the guys had to face. Is like you said, and they can't handle it. They can't handle it, And I like how her strength and her resolve and her particular that speed of her cunningness and her resourcefulness, the things that she sees that they don't pay attention to. The reason that she's such a badass is precisely because of her instincts as a woman and not in spite of them. And that's just, she's such a spectacular badass heroine, movie badass. I rewatched this, was absolutely one of my favorite movies the year it came out, and I can't wait to see it again. Adam bought it. I didn't buy it. Adam bought it, so we have it at home. And I'm happy he did. So you can get it on physical media, so you don't have to keep watching it on the streaming service. it's a beautiful, beautiful transfer.
I loved what you said about her kind of learning from mistakes and learning more about it in each kind of phase that she's dealing with it, and learn something new on how to fight it, because that's exactly what the Predator does. He, we see him kind of kill a bigger animal each time and knows how to navigate until he works his way up to humans. So he's kind of navigating the world and learning something new each time, and she's doing the same exact thing. So I think that's why when they kind of ultimately face off, she's kind of the only person who can match him, because she was kind of learning as he was learning.
Exactly. And I do, and also what you guys are saying, I also love, there's a part of me that really loves when the fragile little boys, as you say, when there's a part of me that like relishes when they get angry, because I'm like, yes, I'm like, be afraid, be angry, like get worked up, okay? Because that means that something's being done right. And it makes it that much rewarding when it's a great movie like this. And I also look forward to the day when we don't have to go through that hurdle anymore. There doesn't have to be that kind of pushback where, who knows when that'll happen. But yeah, when we finally get over that hump and a woman can just be a badass character like this in a boy's world without it being like shocking and upsetting. But in the meantime, I just sit back and eat popcorn and watch these little men squirm. Yeah.
That's going to wrap up our panel on Kick-Ass Women. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Jeannine, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Jeannine Devine _ on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. Jeannine Devine on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. You can check out the It's a Wonderful podcast feed. All places podcasts can be found, or the It's a Wonderful podcast YouTube channel. Me and my co-host Morgan, we have a ton of shows that we do. We do a classic films podcast. It's a Wonderful podcast. We do a podcast where, like Abby, I make my co-host watch a ton of things he's never seen. So we have fun with that. We have a spin-off show where on our YouTube channel, Morgan Hasn't Seen TV, where we talk TV shows. So we worked our way through Bridgerton. We're slowly working our way through Dawson's Creek. So I'm having fun making him watch Dawson's Creek. But yeah, we have a lot of fun things going on at It's a Wonderful Podcast. So check out the YouTube channel and the podcast feed.
Great. Nicki, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
Thanks for having me. You can find me and my partner Monty at The Montyverse on YouTube. We just wrapped up X-Men 97 this past week, which was fantastic. And we are going to start My Adventures with Superman really soon. And I occasionally tweet at EdLordNicki on Twitter.
Beautiful. Abby, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
You can find me. I'm sometimes on Twitter. Usually it's just nonsense, but that's Abbey Road with 3 B's and the O is a 0. Letterboxd, I say more nonsense on that, and it's the same thing. And then more consistently, I do a YouTube channel with my husband Aaron and our friend John, Why We Love Horror. Weekly, we talk about a movie, and then there's also weekly horror movie trivia too, which is super fun. So yeah, it's just a fun channel.
Marisol, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
So we haven't had something on there right currently. Let me just say it. So my partner, Adam Collins, and I, we have a YouTube channel, which is called Champs on Film, where in between our work lives, we try to put out like a movie review or some movie commentary. We get really into the Oscars, so we always do an Oscar like pre and post show. So that's the latest video that we have up there. We haven't done anything since our post Oscars video. But we really love making videos. I really love editing them. So go over there and check out Champs on Film if you just want to hang out with us, and we'll have stuff up there before long. And then in the meantime, you can also find me occasionally on Twitter. I'm not good with the social medias. I'm really not. But you can find me at Marisol _ Mariah at Twitter, and especially on Letterboxd. Right now, you can find me. I'm doing a weekly bracket show with my friends. With my friends Taylor Robinson and Jacob Blunden, and Mara Knopik and Adam Collins. We're rating all the movies of the 2010s and putting them in one giant bracket and whittling them down to one. And it is a month-long endeavor. And we are almost at the end of this. when the show is coming out. We are going to be almost at the end of it. So you can check that out on Taylor's channel at Finally Tailored. And then check out Champs on Film.
Wonderful. Melissa, thank you for being my wonderful co-host as always. Where can people find us?
Yeah, we are all over the internet. You can find us on X or Twitter, TikTok, Letterboxd, and of course here. So if you're new, please subscribe, comment, like, all those things. And until next time, everyone,
Stay
magical.